Yesterday out at Wigram Skies, you saw all the effort that was made to try and get infrastructure into that land. Huge amounts of pipes and work going on to make sure that people have their services. So this morning you're here at SCIRT, and with us is Jeremy Gulson, who is the GIS person for SCIRT. Now, you might be wondering what SCIRT has to do with infrastructure. If you're not from around Christchurch, you may not have even heard of it. So what does SCIRT actually stand for?
SCIRT stands for Stronger Christchurch Infrastructure Rebuild Team.
Right, so that's where the services come into to the picture. So infrastructure. Obviously there's been huge damage to infrastructure in Christchurch, so SCIRT was set up to deal with that. Now it's a bit of a unique group of people. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the Alliance group and the SCIRT have been set up to rebuild the water networks, which is the wastewater, water and road networks. So it's what they call horizontal infrastructure, so it's not buildings and above ground type of infrastructure. So everything that you see in the road corridor that's getting dug up is pretty much SCIRT work to rebuild primarily the water and wastewater networks.
Yeah, all those things you take for granted that you certainly need. Remember, you talked to the Mayor about that and all the problems that people had when they didn't have water supply and sewage treatment. So you're the GIS guy. You've got use of all these wonderful tools. Can you take us through some of the systems that you use that help you organise some of this infrastructure rebuild?
So I guess the first part of what the guys in the wider project here do is obviously go out and assess the condition of the infrastructure. So that work is sort of ongoing, and in the early days required a lot of crews in the field doing various things. So filming and videoing of underground pipes and getting the assessment of what that looks like, given that you can't see that sort of stuff. The water supply, which is the pressure mains which we drink water, is generally more obvious because when it's under pressure it bursts and it comes to the surface. The wastewater and stormwater is a bit different. So the system we've got here is taking a lot of the assessment work that gets done in the field, how many breaks have happened on a pipe per 100 metres, for instance, down a street, and saying, well, actually that piece of pipe needs to be rebuilt. It's not a band-aid kind of fix. So all of that work has been done and is carrying on, which feeds into the system here that we create for mapping that and providing the assessment team just the scale and the visuals of what that looks like. Because you can imagine with 300 kilometres of pipe network under the ground, it's a hell of a thing to try and see and visualise. So at the peak there was 20 different crews going around the city with those video crews doing the CCTV, and all of that information comes into here. So we visualise it, map it, do some analysis and present it through this tool for the planning team to then say these are the areas here that I'm going to make this my project. Then they'll go off and do the design work and then the construction work.
Right. So it's a pretty clever map, a GIS, Geographic Information System. So what kind of layers of information do you have at your fingertips?
Yeah, so in here we've got, if you think about sort of coming from the ground up and building up, we've got all of the property information, the ownership details and the property information. We've got obviously all of the network, the services, the infrastructure underground. So down the corridors, all the pipes that go into the houses, so what they call the laterals that go out to the side. And then working up, we've got all of the power and utilities, gas. So because they're all in the road corridor as well. So you imagine when you're digging up the road corridor, you obviously want to know absolutely everything. So they don't want to burst gas lines or break power lines. I mean, that's pretty significant in this particular industry if you do that sort of thing. And then you're building up to more, then there's a whole lot of data around height and displacement, which is helping the guys work out where the height displacement is. We've got on here some of the displacement models for the flood modelling that they do to work out where things are. Stormwater particularly, of course, just relies on water running downhill. So Christchurch being quite flat has some pretty significant issues and challenges to manage that. And so we map a lot of this through the tool here to just visualising that stuff for the guys to then put together those projects.
So GIS giving information to a whole lot of different people so that they can all get the infrastructure rebuild done. Now, what kind of people are involved in SCIRT? Because it's a big amalgamation, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a big collaborative approach. I mean, its owners, I guess, are the council, Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority, and New Zealand Transport Authority. They're the kind of people that fund it, and then the management and the structure is primarily around the major construction companies, Fletcher's, Downer, Fulton Hogan, City Care, and McConnell Dow. So they provide quite a bit of the management, and then also, of course, the actual work in the field is done by those contractors. Then in the office here, predominantly, is actually a mixture of all the design organisations and a large amount of council people seconded into it. So it is a true collaboration of effort across. There'd be close to 30 different companies in this building now in terms of represented. Anyone from having, 4 or 5 people here, or maybe up to 40. So it's a real mix. And the challenge for the management has been to create an entity, and then it's like its own business, right. and yet we all have our day jobs we go back to. So okay. That's how it's come together. So yeah, it is the biggest kind of collaborative effort that's ever probably been put together. So, and of course we work very closely with SCIRT in terms of sharing data and information. We work our ultimate client really, where we have to hand a lot of this infrastructure to, is the council. So we work very closely with them, and they provide us feeds into our GIS in terms of the core services and that. So we're just effectively a sort of a custodian for a while of this information while we're doing this project. It all gets handed back, and then SCIRT gets disestablished. So it's a temporary entity to get things going fast. So yeah.
Excellent. So we're actually going to go and see some of the work that SCIRT's been doing.